Hello, everybody. Today I'm talking about this question. Find a cubic equation with real coefficients that has 3 minus I and 1 as two of its solutions. We know that a cubic equation has 3 solutions. Now, in this question, 2 of the solutions are given. So I have x equals 1, that's one solution, and x equals 3 minus I, that's another solution. But I do not know the third solution. Now, a cubic equation can be factored into 3 brackets. Because I know x equals 1 and x equals 3 minus I are 2 solutions, I can factor the equation like this. X minus 1. This gives you one solution, and the second solution is x minus 3 minus I. 3 minus I is my second solution. So I better write this as a square bracket. And I don't know the third solution, so my third solution may be this. X minus something here. This must be my third solution, and this equation is equal to 0. Okay. I want to find the cubic equation. In other words, I know this part already. If I know this part, I just expand it. I get the cubic equation. How do I find this part? Look, the cubic equation, I already know one factor. What about the other factor? So, I know this cubic. I factor the cubic equation. This is one bracket. I must have another bracket equal to 0. So this bracket has to be this multiply this. But I don't know this. All I know is that it's a cubic equation. Therefore, this part must be squared. It has a square term there. So this part must be a quadratic function. This is a quadratic function, or you say quadratic factor. So a quadratic function has 2 solutions. And these 2 solutions can be found by applying the quadratic formula. Therefore, my 2 solutions from here are, one solution is x. Let me write down the general formula for the quadratic formula. So this is the solution, quadratic formula, which means I have correct? I write my solution, my two solutions separately. One is this, the other one is this. Okay. Two solutions for my quadratic function part. Two solutions, one is this, the other one is this. You see that this part is exactly this part, except one is plus, one is minus. I already have this solution. So this is my solution. So you see, 3 minus I. So I have 3, this must be 3 minus I. Therefore, the other solution is 3 plus I. You see? Therefore, my third solution is x minus 3 plus I. I get this conclusion from the properties of quadratic equation. This is the general formula. So I know the third solution must be this. This minus part becomes plus. Now, once I conclude this way, then the rest is easy. What is the cubic equation? I just expand this. Just expand it. So I get cubic equation. So let me erase this. And I also erase this. My cubic equation is just to expand this part. So let me remove the brackets. Let's see now. Remove the brackets. So x minus 3 plus I. And this one is x minus 3 minus I. Just to expand this, I have the answer, cubic equation. So how do you expand that? You can multiply these two first and then multiply that. So x times x, x times minus 3, x times minus I, and then minus 3 times x minus 3 times minus 3, and so on and so forth. That looks quite long, this times that. Why don't I do this? Let me put a bracket here. And I change this to square bracket. And put a bracket here. And change this to square bracket. So why do I do that? If I do this, I can see that this is my A, this is my B, and this is my A, this is my B. So I have A plus B multiply A minus B. A plus B multiply A minus B is A plus minus B plus. That's the difference of two squares. So my next line is x minus 1. And then I have A squared minus B squared. That's a plus b times a minus b. So it's a squared minus b squared. This is easier instead of multiply so many terms. So I do that. X minus 3 bracket square okay, this I expand x minus 3 squared. This part is x minus 3 squared. A squared minus 2ab plus b squared minus I squared. Remember, I is negative 1. Negative 1 squared becomes negative 1. So I have minus negative 1, which is essentially plus 1. So 9 plus 1 is 10. So I have this. Right? 9 plus 1 is 10. Now, this, you need to expand it. After you expand it, you have the cubic equation. So you multiply x and x squared, multiply x and minus 6x, multiply x and 10, and then minus 1 times x squared, and so on, so forth. But that is quite long, right? Don't do that. Don't do that. Do a simpler way. So let me show you the simpler way. You write 1. Let me see if I can erase something and show this to you. Wow. All right, let me squeeze everything here. 1 minus 6 plus 10. You don't need to write x, okay? This is 1 minus 1. 1 minus 1. So you multiply. Have you learned this way? If you have two polynomials multiply, you don't need to write the x. Okay, this is called a separation of coefficients method. Method of separating coefficients. This is a standard way, okay? So 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times negative 6 is negative 6. 1 times 10 is 10. Negative 1 times 1 is negative 1. Negative 1 times negative 6 is positive 6. Negative 1 times positive 10 is negative 10. And you add 1 minus 7 plus 16 minus 10. Okay, I have this. This term has no x. This term has x. This term has x squared. This term has x cubed. So my result is x cubed minus 7. X squared plus 16 minus 10. So, use this way. Yeah, separating the coefficients method to multiply two polynomials. I get this result, and I then put x back. I have this. So this is my answer, the cubic equation. Okay. This is the end of the question. I like to mention another method, getting the same answer. So what is another method? The solution 1 and 3 minus I is already given to you. And I use the properties of quadratic function. I conclude that my other answer is 3 plus I. So my other answer is 3 plus I. Just use, because I know this part is a quadratic function. So I use the properties of quadratic function. I conclude that my third answer is this. Once I know this, I don't need to do all these. I have another method. So let me show you another method. Let me leave the answer there so that we can compare the another method with what we already have. So what is the another method? I add the three answers. 1, 3 minus I, 3 plus I add the three answers. Look, minus I plus I cancels. 3 plus 3 plus 1 is 7. Look, this 7 is here. Is that quick? Very quick. Now, you multiply the three answers. So 1 times 3 minus I, excuse me, 3 plus I, what is this? You don't need to worry about 1, you just multiply this. And this is A minus B times A plus B, that is A squared minus B squared. A squared is 3 times 3 is 9. B squared is I squared. I squared is minus 1. But I have A squared minus B squared. So I have minus negative 1, which is 9 plus 1, which is 10. Look, 10 is here. How about this 16? 16 is this. 1, 3 minus I, 3 plus I. I multiply 1 and 3 minus I get 3 minus I. I multiply 1 and 3 plus I get 3 plus I. I multiply these two. These two is A minus B times A plus B. We already know that. A minus B times A plus B, that is 10. I add them up. Minus I plus I cancels. 10 plus 3 plus 3 is 16. Do you see that? This is shorter. I get everything. So, the answer is the cubic term. The square term is the negative of the sum of the three answers. The next 16x is, let's say this is x1, x2, x3. So this 16 is x1 times x2 plus x2 times x3 plus x1 times x3. Don't change sign. No change sign, okay? No change sign. The last term is x1 times x2 times 3 which is 10, you must change the sign. So use this property of cubic equation, you get the answer right away, provided you know the three answers. So let me write down the conclusion of this method. Let's call this x1 as x2, x3. The cubic equation is x squared minus x1 plus x2 plus x3 x squared plus x1 x2 plus x1 x3 plus x2 x3, and this is x, and plus finally x1 x2 x3 equals 0. This is the relation between the answers and the equation, and cubic equation. Let me repeat. If you have the three answers, three solutions, add the three solutions, add a negative sign, that's the second term. The third term is x1, x2, x1, x3, x2, x3, no change of sign. The last term is the product of the three answers, of the three solutions, but you need to change the sign. Oops. Sorry, you need to change the sign. Okay, so minus, plus, minus. Okay? That's the end of today's lecture. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Goodbye.